Thank you both very much for that. We're going to move on to our second question, which is about the continuing spread of sort of uniform and monotonous commercial architecture. This question comes from Ivana Blaswick, director of the Whitechapel Gallery, who unfortunately isn't able, so my brief tells me anyway, to be here this evening. So her question is, I'll put this to Ed first of all, how can we limit the power of the multinational chains and the big box stores which are destroying Britain's architectural landscape? And how can we educate local authorities in recognizing and supporting great architecture and resisting the pressure of powerful developers?
Well, let me begin by saying how sorry that I am that Ivana is not here to ask her own question. I don't think she should be allowed to ask a question unless she can be bothered to attend, as so many people have bothered to attend on a rainy Thursday night. I think they should get first dibs at asking a question. I'll be very careful how I phrase my answer. I'm not a huge fan of housing developers, and sometimes my enthusiastic opposition to them can get me, I can get carried away. I remember doing a fringe meeting, not at the last party conference, but the one in Birmingham, where I railed against the developers. And then somebody asked me what I thought the worst example, I'll probably put my foot in it again now actually, what the worst example of recent architecture I'd seen. And I said, without hesitation, it has to be the Westfield shopping centre in Shepherd's Bush, only to turn around and see that Westfield were actually sponsoring the event at which I was speaking. I've since, I don't know whether you would regard this as a sort of sleaze moment, but I've since got into bed with Westfield because I'm on the board of the Bush Theatre, and they've been very supportive of the Bush Theatre, which is planning to move into a old building and do it up with a fantastic architect. I just think it's appalling. I mean, there's nothing more I can say, really. I'll speak from the heart. I think that the houses that are put up by developers, on the whole, are just fairly horrific. I think that when I talk about development control, I mean, you can use all sorts of punchy and catchy phrases, which I think are quite telling. You know, I was speaking to a good developer, in my view, quite recently, who made the point that what you have to understand about the large property developers is that they're not property developers, they're land bank merchants. You know, they buy land, they're buying land with a view to building in 50 years' time. So the quality of the architecture and the design is not what they're interested in. I think there's a huge problem with the planning system. I'm going well off-piste here, by the way. I know I'm on film, but I'm going well off-piste. There's a huge problem with the planning system. I think planning class uses are a major problem. I think that, you know, local planners should be able to apply common sense. So the cost of land and then the cost of getting through the planning system all lead to very little money being left over for proper development at the end. So I think we have to look at all of that in the round. I think we need to massively increase, as I said earlier, the status of planners and architects. I think architects have a higher status. I think town planners don't have the status they used to have 30 or 40 years ago. I think, you know, we should bring back where we can county architects. And I frankly think the planning system should move upwards at the local level. I don't think, for example, district councils have the resources to take on large developers who are planning to build 2,500 houses in one go. And it'd be much better to have a county planner who can take these people on and force through good design. But as I say, in terms of our policy, I'm delighted that we've got architecture and good design as central to any local framework for planning and development. But I think we've got a huge battle on our hand. I think things are slowly changing. I do think the developers, the big five, do recognise that there is some prestige in getting good design awards, and they're embracing organisations like Cave more. But I think we've just got to keep on pushing. I think it's a terrible error that we let them, you know, appoint an architect at the beginning of the process to get through planning, and then the architect is cast aside so they can get on with building exactly what they were planning to build anyway. I just think it's sheer hard work to get these people to change the way they do their business, but I think government can help by putting good design central in the planning process, but also, it sounds counterintuitive, but deregulating planning so that there's more opportunity to be imaginative and it's far less kind of process-driven and box-ticking system.
Thank you. Margaret?
We're in danger that I completely agree, actually, with everything that Ed said, and loathe Tesco Towns, and I'm absolutely furious with what Bellway has constructed on Barking Riverside as the first houses there. I think they are a complete disaster area. So I agree with it that there's a problem. I think the only thing I would disagree on the salute is the way forward. I think we've got to work. I don't believe in taking it away from district councils. Let's start on that. I think because of my passion of absolutely being convinced that you've got to embrace the local people, the local community in the design of new housing or new developments. You've got to keep it as local as possible. So that means you need to bring the skills at that level, not think they'll never have the skills. We've got to up it to a more distant level, because I think worse decisions are there, because there isn't that commitment to community if you take it one level higher. So I think we've all got to work really, really hard to build capacity within local authorities to make those judgments among both members. And we've encouraged design champions among councillors, all of you guys, and we have got to work together to try and turn that into something important. And we've got to build the skills of planning officers at all levels to be able to take on the big developers in a tougher way. And that's where I think CABE does come in. So I'm delighted that there's cross-party agreement that CABE, invented by us, should have should remain in place. And I think the work that they do about over design reviews, I've watched I think 2 or 3 of these design reviews, and they are just really, they're a good interactive way in which in a non-threatening way you can improve the quality of design. So the more we can make that compulsory, I think that's important. And the other thing I would say is we ought to have got, and I wish we had, and we must do in the next couple of years, minimum design standards for housing. And I think we, admitting something here, I think we missed a trick on not getting that before we started a lot of this building, and we have just got to get it in. We've just got to get it in. Otherwise, we'll be investing lots of money in lots of new homes, which just won't be sustained over time. So I'd go for minimum design standards, a stronger role for CABE, and actually not a deregulation. I'd go for just a lot of education and support at the appropriate level in local authorities to ensure good design.
Thank you.